The Islamic Republic of Iran continues its retaliatory operation True Promise 3 in response to the ongoing Israeli aggression. In Palestine, occupation forces have killed over 130 people in the last 24 hours during different massacres across Gaza. And in Argentina, former President Fernandez De Kirchner supporters gathered in front of residents and in Mayo Square to show their support as her 6-year sentence begins. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll begin with the news. We now begin with the information. The Islamic Republic of Iran continues its retaliatory operation True Promise 3 in response to the ongoing Israeli aggression. On Wednesday night, Tehran launched the 12th wave of strikes on targets across territories occupied by the Zionist regime. In this context, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps informed of the use of 2-stage long-range Sejil missiles, super heavy long-range missiles that were also launched. Israel and Iran continue to exchange fire on the 6th day of strikes following Tel Aviv's attack on Tehran on June 13th, which targeted Iranian nuclear facilities and residential areas, killing over 230 people and injuring more than 1,000. In this context, the Iranian media confirmed the downing of Israeli drone Hermes 900 shot down in the skies over Isfahan. This way, the Iranian army's air defense hit and destroyed the most advanced aircraft of the Zionist regime, capable of flying for 36 hours straight. The radar component found on the drone establishes an online connection with the same base from which it was launched from the territory of the Israeli regime. The downing of the aircraft, which also has the ability to carry air-to-ground munitions to launch attacks, signifies a major achievement of Operation True Promise 3, launched by Iran in response to the Zionist aggression. And the Iranian police reportedly captured several spies of the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad in various areas west and south of the country. According to local media, some mercenaries were arrested in the province of Lorestan, where they had engaged in cyberspace activities aimed at generating civil unrest against the Islamic government, with further detentions being carried out in the Kermanshah province. The country's Revolutionary Guard also informed of the capture of a group of spies affiliated with the Zionist regime in the province of Markazi. In addition, Polish forces detained an individual in the city of Karash, north of the country, who was manufacturing, producing, and testing explosives. And Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, promised more punishment for the Israeli regime in response to the massive attacks against the Islamic country. In a televised message, the Ayatollah said that he had suspected from the onset that the U.S. administration was involved in the Zionist offensive, pointing out that Tel Aviv showed its weakness and helplessness when its allies in Washington intervened. The supreme leader described President Donald Trump's statements as threatening and ridiculous, reiterating that the Iranian nation will not surrender to his provocations.
The nation will stand firm against this imposed war, just as it has stood firm against the imposed weapons. The Iranian nation will not surrender to anyone's imposition. I hope that intellectuals and speakers, especially those with the greatest connection to world public opinion, will express these concepts.
Likewise, the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, stated that the incident occurred while certain negotiations were being set with the U.S. government.
This was a historical incident. It was a very revealing incident. The second issue is that this incident was a senseless and evil invasion by the Israeli regime. It happened while government officials were holding negotiations with the United States side. There was no principled problem in Iran that would indicate a military maneuver, as it was a sudden and drastic action. Of course, it is clear from the beginning that the United States regime is involved in this evil maneuver.
And in this sense, the supreme leader of Iran emphasized that the Iranian nation does not fear the threats imposed by the Zionist regime.
The Iranian nation has shown that in the face of threats from those who threaten us, there is no fear or trepidation, and the announcement of believers is a great thing. The Iranian nation appreciates this. The threat does not affect its behavior. For the Iranian nation, asking it to surrender is like not conducting yourself like a gentleman. These are people with conscience who know Iran, know the Iranian nation, know its history.
And the Israeli regime launched on Wednesday a new series of attacks against civilian buildings in the Iranian capital, Tehran. In this regard, a new wave of Zionist drone strikes has been reported in different areas of the Persian city, targeting the Iranian Red Crescent facilities, for example. In addition, explosions were reported near the Payam airport in Karash, which had been targeted previously by Israeli strikes. An Iranian government spokesperson also confirmed cyber attacks on at least 2 of Iran's banks, with temporary internet restrictions currently in place to make sure that cyber infrastructure is not damaged. Precisely in this scenario, U.S. President Donald Trump continues to stoke the flames of the conflict by calling for the unconditional surrender of Iran to Israeli aggressions.
Two very simple words, very simple, unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it, I give up, no more. Then we go blow up all the, all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there.
And more from the international repercussions. In a speech to legislators from his ruling party on Wednesday, the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, further condemned Israel's aggressions in the region and reaffirmed Iran's legitimate right to self-defense.
All of our institutions and relevant colleagues are on alert regarding the possible effects of these attacks on our country. We have made and are making preparations against all kinds of negativity and all kinds of scenarios. It is a perfectly natural and legitimate legal right for Iran to defend itself against this state terrorism and banditry by Israel.
Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. A massive demonstration by academics filled the streets of the Pakistani capital, Islamabad, condemning the Israeli aggression against Palestine and Iran. Participants expressed their solidarity by carrying banners rejecting Israeli crimes, emphasizing that the Palestinian cause is a religious and humanitarian priority. In this regard, Pakistani social leaders highlighted that the struggle will continue until the liberation of the region is achieved. Pakistani ulamas also called for Islamic unity in the face of the Western war on Islam, criticizing the United Nations' inability to protect the Palestinians. Meanwhile, Iran's ambassador in Geneva, Ali Bahraini, rejected recent comments by U.S. President Donald Trump as hostile and unwarranted after the head of state called for Iran to surrender following Israel's aggression.
Remarks made by Donald Trump are completely unwarranted, are very hostile. We cannot ignore them. We are vigilant about what Donald Trump is saying. We will put it in our calculations, in our assessments, and there is a line which, if crossed, there should be a response on our side. And that line will be defined by our relevant authorities, including military forces. And once the red line is crossed, the response will come.
Meanwhile, U.S. intelligence has contradicted the Israeli Zionist regime's statements on Iran as an immediate nuclear threat. U.S. intelligence concluded in its state assessment that Tehran is not actively pursuing the development of a nuclear weapon and that the procedure for this could take about 3 years. In this regard, one of the sources pointed out that, according to reports, Israel may have delayed the Iranian nuclear program for some months and that although significant damage has been caused to Natanz facility, the Fordo plant, another uranium enrichment center, remains intact. Despite these reports, U.S. President Donald Trump recently dismissed his own intelligence reports as false and persisted in his campaign of disinformation about the Iranian atomic program. For his part, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, ensured that there is no evidence of a systematic effort by Iran to develop nuclear weapons.
There is this competition about who is wrong or right about the time that would be needed. Certainly, it was not for tomorrow, maybe not a matter of years. I would there be perhaps more serious about this, and I don't think it was a matter of years. But this is speculation. Why? I go again to the beginning of my comment. These things we don't know, because if there was some activity which was clandestine or hidden or away from our inspectors, we couldn't know. What we informed and what we reported was that we did not have, as in coincidence with some of the sources you mentioned there, that we did not have any proof of a systematic effort to move into a nuclear weapon.
And unilaterally, U.S. President Donald Trump engaged the country in the conflict between Israel and Iran. Without consulting the Congress, he asserted that the nation was participating in Israel's air defense system. However, more than 60% of U.S. citizens reject his statements. According to the survey conducted by YouGov, 60% of those interviewed, including Republicans, do not share the opinion of the head of state regarding intervention in the war, the threats against the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution, or the ultimatum on the nuclear process. 65% of Democrats surveyed strongly oppose it, 53% of Republicans also oppose it, and 61% of the independent population with this opinion. Several legislators, including Republicans, also do not want to see the nation involved in the confrontations between Tel Aviv and Tehran. And in Palestine, occupation forces have killed over 130 people in the last 24 hours in what is being described as Israeli and U.S. hunger traps. Byproduct of famine, thousands of Palestinians continue to flock to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's food distribution centers. It is there where Israeli military shoots civilians under the excuse of safeguarding food. To date, hundreds have been killed and even more have been injured at these U.S.-backed distribution centers. UN humanitarian coordinator Jonathan Whitall assured that the Nasser hospital is overcrowded due to the high number of wounded that are being admitted. Of the 10th emergency session of the United Nations on Palestine, Nicaragua reaffirmed its condemnation of Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Jaime Hermida, Nicaragua's representatives, called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire as well as access to humanitarian aid. He stressed that there will be no peace in the Middle East as long as the occupation of Palestinian territories and the theft of their land are systematic. Hermida vindicated the Palestinian people's resistance as it represents the struggle of peoples worldwide. He reaffirmed that Nicaragua will continue to defend justice, peace, and respect for international law. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow the page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. An impressive 500,000 crowd mobilized to Buenos Aires, Argentina, to show their support to former President Cristina Fernandez De Kirchner after the nation's Supreme Court announced the start of her 6-year prison sentence. Political and trade union organizations gathered on Wednesday in response to the court's ruling that sentenced and disqualified the former president from holding public office. The march began outside the federal court gathered in Comodoro Pi to support Fernandez as she begins the conviction process and led then to Mayo Square. Social movements and retirees joined the mobilization, affirming that the sentence against the former president strengthens the position of political forces and accelerates the exhaustion of the neoliberal model. Precisely in this context, former Argentinian President Cristina Fernandez De Kirchner addressed the crowds gathered in Mayo Square and highlighted her desire and will to have again in the country a fair income for the whole working class.
My will to have again a country where the boys and girls have 4 meals a day, books and computers in their schools. Workers that can make ends meet, and also save to buy a little house, a little piece of land, something that is theirs, obtained with their effort, and as a result of their work. In line with Peronism, where the pensioners had remedies. That country was not a utopia. We lived it for 2.5 years, and we left it without any debt. The same as the families.
The plenary of the Colombian Senate approved the 77 articles related to the labor reform proposed by President Gustavo Petro in support of the country's labor force. During Tuesday's meeting, the last 12 remaining articles were discussed and voted on. The workers' sector detailed that among the key points are the request for the payment of 100% of Sundays and holidays. In addition, an important aspect is approved is the apprenticeship contract for students of the National Apprenticeship Service, where they will have a labor contract with provision of services. In view of this, the text remains open to modifications while waiting for the conciliation in the chamber and in the Senate. We stay in Colombia as the Justice of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace in the country, Ana Caterina Haig, requested the prosecutor's office the criminal investigation of 3 alleged suspects involved in the forced disappearance and murder of political leaders of the Arhuaco people. The justice was sought to clarify the likely participation of Luis Alberto Restrepo Gutierrez, Alfonso Macías, José Matos, Carlos Matos, and Wilson Ramirez in these cases. Concerning the investigation and the findings in the Betania farm located in Cesar, the authority stressed the need for precautionary measures to access the property. In this context, recently, the Special Jurisdiction for Peace compared copies to determine the presumed participation of civilians in the crimes associated with the ethnic case, which involved the forced disappearance, torture, and assassination of political leaders. Meanwhile, the brutal repression exercised by the government of the President of Panama, José Raúl Mulino, against unions, trade unions, students, social movements, and indigenous peoples has left the first fatality in Bocas del Toro in the northwest of the country. Although the Vice Minister of Public Security, Luis Felipe Icaza, assured that the citizen was found dead on the road, the demonstrators of the community denied this and showed the moment in which they were transporting him still alive. The office recognized this Tuesday that 1,900 military and police can form the Omega operation that represses hundreds of demonstrators that oppose the Law 462, the loss of sovereignty, and the deterioration of the environment in the country. By air, land, and sea, the demonstrators are besieged, many of them belonging to native peoples and protected by international treaties. The Vice Minister also assured that the victim, Fran Abrego, would have received attention from paramedics, but the demonstrators denied this. And in other news, Kenyan police shot an apparent bystander at close range Tuesday during the latest protest over the killing of a blogger in custody earlier this month. According to reports, the victim, who was a street vendor, was involved in a confrontation with two officers on a sidewalk. The man was being treated at Kenya's largest referral government hospital, along with 10 others injured in the demonstration. The police, for their part, expressed their concern about this incident and announced the arrest of the officer involved. Hundreds of protesters clashed with the police in the capital while demanding the arrest of the Deputy Inspector General of the Police, Eliud Langat, who had filed a defamation complaint against the blogger Albert Ojwang. Ojwang was arrested on June 6th and died in custody. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.